I got rejected from the Polkadot Blockchain Academy the first time. The second time I used AI in the entrance exam, even though it wasn't allowed, and I still got accepted. Here's how that 2.5-week blockchain bootcamp in Switzerland actually felt day by day. The late nights, friendships, the struggles, and everything they don't tell you about becoming a Web3 developer. Application. I'd been searching for a solid blockchain development course for quite a while. Then, during a casual Google search, I stumbled across the Polkadot Blockchain Academy, in short PBA. Back then, I applied and got rejected. This time around, I signed up for PBAX first, the asynchronous online blockchain course, which costs exactly $100 as of 2025. There are no requirements and everyone is welcome to join, which is great. By the way, if you haven't seen my review of PBAX, feel free to check it out. After completing the course, we were encouraged to apply to the full academy, so I gave it another try. I wasn't expecting much. I was busy, that's for sure, a bit distracted, and honestly just went for it. And here's my first piece of advice. If you're thinking about applying to PBA, I strongly recommend doing PBAX first. It gives you a solid head start. And honestly, most of the students at PBA had done it too. While it's not a strict requirement, it definitely increases your chances of getting accepted. After passing the first phase of the application, you're given a take-home exam. Now picture this. Saturday night, just 24 hours before the deadline, I'm exhausted, staring at some algorithms and data structure questions back there at my desk and making possibly the worst decision of my application. I turned to AI to help me write some code. Yes, you had that right. The application explicitly said no AI assistance, but I was desperate and running out of time. In what was either a moment of complete honesty or total self-sabotage, I even checked the box admitting I'd used AI in the exam. Thus, I had essentially written my own rejection letter, or so I thought. If you're at the take-home assignment stage, don't leave it until the last minute. The questions required deep thinking, research. I had a whole week, but wasted 6 days. Bad idea. 4 days after submitting what I thought was a doomed assignment, I got an interview invitation. I was completely shocked. Honestly, to this day, I think they just missed the used AI checkbox, somehow overlooked it, and that's how I got in. So, if the PBA staff is now watching the video, I hope you're not too angry. I'm sorry, won't happen again. Fingers crossed. Anyways, during the interview they only focused on my motivation for joining the Web3 ecosystem and warned me about the intense workload ahead. They warned me multiple times. The waiting period after the interview was agonizing, but eventually that magical acceptance email arrived at my inbox and I immediately went into preparation. Last, before we move on, persistency pays off. I spoke with a PBA alumnus who told me he was initially rejected, but he kept reaching out to the team and eventually landed a spot. So if you're serious about joining, don't give up too easily. Preparation. It would be my first blockchain developer bootcamp, surrounded by brilliant peers and taught by core Polkadot developers. I jumped into Rust, reviewing materials, reviewing all kinds of docs, and solving an unexpected problem. My machine didn't have enough space. The course required at least 200 gigs of SSD space, 16 gigabytes of RAM, and 8-core processor. In retrospective, I'd suggest having either around 300 gigs of free space or invest in a fast external SSD. I went for a Samsung T9 with 1 terabyte for €135. Mac users format your SSD as APFS, it speeds up Rust compilation big time. You will find SSD I used linked in the description. Now, let's get into what actually happens when you make it to this elite Web3 developer program. The journey begins March 22nd, 2025. Big day arrived. Although PBA officially started on March 23rd, I decided to arrive a day early to settle in. At 5:20 AM, my train departed and the overall journey was a blur of anticipation. By noon, I crossed into Switzerland, eventually reaching Rotkreuz, where my hotel was located. After a short walk, I arrived at the hotel Bauernhof, right next to the station. But there was a catch. No reception, no instructions, no obvious way inside. Eventually, I used the call box next to the door to contact the hotel staff. Got a pen and entered the building. But my troubles weren't over yet. Next boss fight? The elevator. I spent 30 embarrassing minutes pressing buttons like a true engineer before finally realizing you have to scan the entry card first and then press the button. Classic. So I went inside, upstairs, planned for a quick nap, woke up at 6:30 p.m, panicked as shops would close in just 30 minutes and Sundays would bring a total store closure. So I threw on my shoes, sprinted to the nearest supermarket, grabbed whatever food I could find and barely made it. Welcome to Switzerland. Settling in and lectures. Next day I already felt slightly better. At 3 p.m. I checked into my next hotel. While waiting, I met my first fellow PBA student, Charles. Polyamorous, weed-smoking, creative hippie genius with an 80s haircut and a bullnose piercing straight out the US. A truly unique individual whom I genuinely enjoyed spending time with. My hotel room was fantastic. Even better, our floor had a snack room that quickly became our unofficial late-night study headquarters. In the afternoon, we had our first welcome event. We got some Polkadot swag, for example, this t-shirt, our lanyards, and spent the rest of the time just talking with each other. A few hours in, pizza arrived, good vibes all around. The next morning I went on a run with another student I met the day before, Cameron, and followed it with a divine breakfast at Hotel Apart. Full buffet with fresh bread, Swiss Ovaltine, ham, cheese, and optional extras like pancakes, fried eggs, and smoked salmon. Compared to my yogurt the day before, it felt like luxury. That day marked the official start of the academy. Professor Chandler, which is great professor, kicked off the lecture with an engaging introduction to cryptography. This was quickly followed by a dense, challenging deep dive into zero-knowledge proofs. Because of our time constraints, it was borderline incomprehensible, even according to the professor holding the lecture. Previous cohorts had more time and hands-on resources, and I genuinely wished for a similar structure. Evenings soon developed a comforting rhythm. Bread and cheese dinners while video calling my girlfriend. Amusingly, Charles independently adopted exact same meal routine for the evenings. The days flew by with fascinating lectures on game theory, JSON RPC, scale or smart contract development. Our evening gatherings in the snack room became highlights, debating complex concepts like block production, verifiable random functions, and parachain mechanics, building our technical knowledge and our community simultaneously. That's something I highly recommend you aim for if you are attending PBA. You'll be surrounded by smart, curious people. Collaborate. You're not just allowed, it makes everything better. 4 days in, we had our first mini hackathon. We built a smart contract. Eventually came the opening party and wow, it took place in a grand hotel. We had the entire top floor to ourselves, a room with red couches and balconies overlooking Lucerne at night. The atmosphere was unreal. White served endless trays of gourmet skewers and pastries. Of course, I'd already crashed a doner kebab beforehand, thinking it would be light snacks only. A rocky mistake. As the night went on, something shifted. At some point, we were dancing in a full-on mosh pit. I found myself in the center of a cheering circle of soon-to-be blockchain dev. And somewhere between the music, the laughter, the conversations, I realized this wasn't just a technical program. It was a shared journey, a global community of builders. It was the moment it all clicked. The next day, we had the morning off. Most people slept off the party, while a few of us joined a tea ceremony hosted by Dima, our digital nomad and low-key legend. Then came the real challenge, the assignment. It hit like a freight train. Long nights, endless substrate errors, debugging into the early morning. At one point, I literally dozed over my MacBook at 2 a.m. So, is PBA worth it for aspiring Web3 developers? Absolutely. You will learn a ton, but more importantly, you will form connections you just won't find anywhere else in the space. If I could do one thing differently though, I'd have taken an evening off during that first week, skip the compiler, even skip the tea, and just go on a hike with the others. We were in the Swiss Alps and it was a perfect opportunity to do that. Because now I realize PBA isn't just about Rust or Substrate. It's about building something real, together. And trust me, that was just the beginning. The real challenges, technical and personal, were still ahead. If you're thinking about a career in blockchain or specifically the Polkadot ecosystem, hit the like button and drop your questions about PBA in the comments. I will respond to every single one. Subscribe so you don't miss part 2, where I will dive into the real challenges I faced and the biggest mistakes I made. This is the behind the scenes look at blockchain education I wish I had before applying. See you in part 2.